Hey there, boys and girls. It's Ralph Garman, and you're listening to Talking Codswallop. Good choice.
Hello, everybody. This is Ming Chen from AMC's Comic Book Man. You might know me from the Tell 'em Steve Dave podcast and the I Sell Comics podcast. Listen, I love podcasting. I love talking, but what I really love doing is talking Codswallop.
Hey, I'm Alicia Witt.
I'm Daniel Portman from Game of Thrones. I play Podrick Payne.
I'm Ellipses, and you're listening to the Talking... Okay, I'm Mark Bernard, and you're listening to the Talking Codswallop podcast.
Hey man, it's Kevin Smith, Silent Bob, whose voice you were never used to hearing in the 90s until I started opening it up, man. And that's because I'm a podcaster and you're listening to a podcast, Talking Codswallop, right here, man.
Welcome to this week's Talking Codswallop. I am Gemma.
I'm James.
And with us this week, we have got an amazing guest, which James found. So I feel as though we should hand over the reins to yourself, James, to do the introduction.
No problem. So the guest we have for this week's episode is the best description for our guest, Andre Daniels, is he is a multi-talented threat. Andre works with regard to the comic book industry, and we actually we met in an interesting way of doing things. I was due to be a guest on the Reels and Heels podcast, and I was actually unwell, so I couldn't be on it, but I was lucky enough to be able to observe it and interact a bit. And I was just captivated when he was telling us all about his work and his career, and he was very, very nice when I reached out to say that he would come on as a guest to tell us all about the stuff he does. So without further ado, Andre, hello.
What is going on, everybody? I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm very, very happy that you've come on. So thank you for giving us your time.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. The pleasure is all mine. Like we were saying before we were on air, y'all got the nicest, coolest, British accents. It's always refreshing to hear. Believe you me, it is refreshing.
But like we also covered off, Mike, we haven't got an accent, you have.
All too true. All too true.
Yes, exactly.
But as I said, Andre, you have a smooth voice. So I think you've got us both beaten. You have a very smooth voice.
Thank you so much, James. I appreciate it.
What are you saying, James? Are you saying that my accent isn't smooth and chill?
Yeah, I knew I was going to get reprimanded on that. We generally try and rip into each other on accents for each of us, Andre. It's our sort of thing. We will occasionally mock. And we have a third host on who's not here this evening, Joanne, who is from Northern Ireland. So we always joke that if you have all three of us on, you probably need subtitles.
I like that. That's a good one.
Now, what I always like to ask is I like to go with some icebreaker questions, which is, so my first question would be to you, if you won big on the lottery, like stupidly large amounts of money, what's the first thing you would do? What's the first thing you buy or do?
Ooh, that's a good question. I like the idea of having stupid money. That's the kind of money I like the idea of having. So if I won big on the lottery, first thing I would do, first I'd buy a plot of land, build a mansion, maybe not a mansion, but like a nice size family house, and be able to like move my family into it and everything, and just have like a legacy thing going on. I think I'd like to do that first and foremost. Then I think I'd build a underwater dome. Like, I don't know if you all are familiar with like the Legion of Doom from like the Super Friends from way back in the day. They had this underwater swamp thing, and their what's the jump? Their secret base was under the swamp, and then it comes up from out of the swamp, and it's like a dome. I think I'd like to have one of those secret lair type things. I think I would, be spoiling myself tremendously for having one of those things. And I think it would be really dope to actually have that.
Hell yeah, that sounds really badass.
Yeah.
See, the problem is, because there's no video, you can't see me nodding.
That's why I'm here to do the actual, the verbal reactions to things.
That's what I'm talking about, because I'd go absolutely Billy berserk if I had that kind of money and just build something that's like so outrageous that it's just be like, why do you have this? Because I can. You know what I mean? And I think it would be really, really cool.
Wow. That definitely
what about
sounds
you,
like a
Gemma?
plan. Oh,
what
me?
about you?
Oh Christ! I thought that these questions were just for our guests, so I didn't plan an answer. No, I probably would go for the property side of things as well, but again, not a huge property, because I don't want to spend half of my billions, trillions, whatever, paying for help to clean the place.
That's true.
Yeah. But yeah, I think, it would be quite nice. I'd definitely do a round the world trip, and spend as much time as possible. There's a lot of things that I would do, basically. Yeah. I mean, from a podcast point of view, I'd buy us a few more listeners so that we can get some sponsorship and make even more money,
I like that. I could use a little bit of that myself.
Yeah. I think we all could when we're in this sort of game, can't we?
No, believe that.
Yeah. And what about you, James?
Probably I think my prominent, if I had lots of money through something like a lottery winnings, property would definitely be a purchase, but I know my weakness would be cars. I would buy several different sorts of cars, so I think that'd be where I could get into a mess where I end up buying more things than I ever needed.
Yeah. I'd probably have to have a DeLorean, actually, even if it's just on the driveway.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Buying movie cars. I see you, Gemma. Yeah. I like that. Movie cars.
I have to laugh slightly on that, Gemma, because you would actually spend most of the time with it on the driveway, because they're incredibly unreliable.
Yeah, I know.
That's true.
So my next big question for you, Andre, is who do you prefer, Batman or Superman?
Ooh, well, first of all, that's a really, really easy question. But I'll break down why. So I am a lifelong, since I came out the womb, Batman fan. Since I came out the womb. I was, when I was born, and right when I was able to read comics or watch cartoons or whatever the case may be, I saw the bat symbol and was absolutely in love with it. I could not get enough. I had costumes and all the action figures and every comic book ever made. I had Frank Miller's stuff. I had, when the animated cartoon came out, I got that comic run. Like, I had all the Batman stuff you can possibly imagine. I used to want to craft batarangs. I used to do all types of crazy insanity because I was so in love with the idea of a normal guy becoming a god, more or less. And it is, I love the detective work. I love the fact that he's a master of all martial arts. The gadgets, the cars, swooning beautiful women. It was the epitome of everything I wanted to be as a kid.
What I'm getting from that is that Superman's your favourite, yeah?
You see, and Gemma, that's funny, but the thing is, like, Superman to me, even when I was a kid, Superman was boring to me.
Yeah.
As a kid, he was boring because not only does he always win, he can do anything. So I'm not really invested in what he does. Because I'm like, no matter what happens, no matter what he faces, he's just going to stop holding back. I'm doing air quotes right now. You can't see them. Stop holding back and then win. And I'm just like, okay, whatever. Boo. You know what I mean? Like, there's no intelligence needed. There's no trying to figure things out. It's just, I'm just going to be stronger than you today. And I'm like, all right, that's lame. Bye, bro.
Yeah.
See, I'd agree with that because the thing that I too prefer Batman because there's the dark element of it, and it looks more, when you read the comics, there's definitely that more psychological element. And I've just been more drawn into the Batman films. I mean, the whole Batman run of things. I'm very similar to you in the fact that, the comic books got me, the cartoons got me, the films, the whole thing grabs my attention more than Superman. So, but, each to their own for whoever likes each. It's all good.
Yeah, my favourite's Deadpool.
Went left field on me, Gemma. Went left field on me.
She's got to be different, you see.
I can't resist a bad boy. Come on.
That's fair. All the ladies love the bad boy, so I can't even fake on you, Gemma. I can't even fake.
I mean, I would say Batman's pretty bad because he beats the living crap out of people.
Yeah, that's also true.
But I'm always a Marvel girl at heart. Sorry. I know it's blasphemous.
Oh me, oh my.
Just remember who's recording this, eh?
That's true, and also
fair.
And the other thing I have to acknowledge is you are my podcast wife, so I have to, I'm kind of good at, I know which side my bread's buttered.
No, but on a serious note, if I had to pick between the two, it probably would be Batman as well, for, pretty much the same reason as you've sort of said already, you guys. But yeah, because Superman is just... Okay, he's kind of like the perfect hero in a way, isn't he? But it's just like, okay, yeah, but you were born that way, so whatever.
You didn't earn it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's no arc in which you're earning anything, so I'm immediately taken out of it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting though when you were both just saying about the difference between Batman and Superman. There was like a comedy thing once on YouTube where. It was all a comedy setup, but like the guy who was doing Batman was saying, so what happened, I trained for my entire life to be like this, and you get your powers from what? The yellow sun,
Exactly. You just woke up one day and you're great. Thanks. I mean, there's no way for me as a reader to relate to that at all. Like everything that I have or have strived for, I have to get up every day and work and train and sacrifice and sweat and blood and tears. And this dude woke up with it. Nah, I can't. Nah. There's nothing about that screams like, "Come read me." No. I can't help. I can't help that.
I couldn't agree more on that. So. I'm going to ask, and I've always wanted to ask this to somebody who's American. So,
all right, lay it on me.
It sounds like a bit of a. It's not a huge question to ask, but Coke or Pepsi?
All right, so I am a Coke guy. Now, I'm a Coke guy. Now, I originally come from a Pepsi family, which is kind of wild. Like my grandmother, she was big on Pepsi. She loved Pepsi. We would have what's called, I guess you would call it Chinese takeout over there. We call them the carryouts. And so I would go down there and get my grandma's Chinese food and a Pepsi every time. I go out there and get a Pepsi. I hate Pepsi. That thing tastes like old tires and dirt sweat. I'm telling you, that thing is gross. It's gross. I hate Pepsi so much. And so when I grew up, I was like, yo, this is trash. Screw this. I'm like, yo, well, what's the other one? Oh, Coke? Let me try it. Coke is also terrible, but if you pair it with a little bit of my man Captain Morgan's rum, now we're getting somewhere. So the flavors of the Coke is actually better than the flavors of the Pepsi, but the rum burns through all the crazy sugar and all that other nonsense and just leaves that nice flavoring. Then they got me. But Pepsi, oh my God, I wouldn't give this to a dog. I would not go anywhere near Pepsi for as long as I live. The only thing I use Pepsi for is to burn off battery acid. That's about it. Pepsi can't do nothing for me at all.
You can also clean your toilet with it as well, you know?
Oh, I bet you could. I'm certain of it. That stuff is freaking gross. I hate it. Man, look, I used to have to crack them open all the time. The smell itself made my stomach turn colors. I don't know how that's even possible, but somehow it made my stomach change colors. And I'm just like, yo, I get this nonsense away from me. What is this, poison? What are you trying to do, kill me? What have I done to you, you know? But but Coke all the way, because it's great with rum. Well, then again, I guess I love rum, but that's neither here nor there. But Coke is the answer for sure.
So I was going to say,
I don't think we're going to be getting Pepsi sponsorship after this episode. That's for sure.
Nor do we want it, James. Nor do we want it. But I was going to say as well that there's a we call them pubs, but like bars, as you would call them. But there's like a chain of them in this country called Wetherspoons. And so they're individually named, but anyway, you don't really need to know the ins and outs of that part. But the reason why I'm saying about it is because they have only Pepsi on, what's it called? When they press the buttons, James.
Oh, draft. On draft.
Draft. Yeah, on tap or whatever. Yes, so when they are, they always say, oh, well, we haven't got Coke, but we got Pepsi. That's all right, isn't it? And it's like, if I have to. But yeah, it's like, really? Come on now.
We have an expression over here. It's called death before dishonor. And that's where, like, keep your filthy Pepsi over there. I don't want that nowhere near me.
That also sounds like a really, really cool, like, comic book title as well.
Death Before Dishonor?
Yeah.
It's an expression that we use a lot, usually in rap music.
Okay.
Old school rap music usually used to use that term to show how gangsta or how hard somebody is. So that's always like death before dishonor, meaning like, I'd rather die than to be humiliated in that way, like in the streets or in front of my family or something like that. So, but yes, I agree with you, Gemma. That would be a great comic name. And I might have to write that down and use it in the foreseeable future for sure.
Okay. Well, just don't forget my commission.
I'm gonna slide you a little something under the table, Jim. I'm gonna slide you a little something.
A little something.
A little something, yeah.
I've got to say, I never expected so much of an in-depth response from either of you asking the question, which do you prefer, Coke or Pepsi?
It's passion.
Definite passion from both of you.
Yeah.
My other question is going to be, and it's, like if you think about, say, spiders, things like that, what are you scared of?
Ooh. Okay, I'm not really scared of anything that is physical. I have a fear that's abstract. So like my greatest fear is basically not being able to save the people I care about.
Oh.
That is my fear. I'll give you just something minimal, just for the sake of example's sake. Let's just say there's a burning building. Okay, let's say there's a burning building, and let's just say I'm in there, and let's just say some of my family members are in there as well, and I'm able-bodied, and I'm able to get. Let's say there's 3 family members that's trapped. I'm able to get 2 out. But I couldn't save the 3rd. That would destroy me inside. And I don't think I'd be able to recover from stuff like that. That's like my biggest fear. It's like, hey, I should have been fast enough. I should have been strong enough. I should have been whatever enough in order to save people I care about from a disaster. That's pretty much my biggest fear.
Oh, that's a really, that's, obviously that's a really good fear. But also, is there such a thing as a good fear? But, it's also quite sad as well that you put that much pressure on yourself to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I can understand where you're coming from with that. Yeah. Because I think any good person would feel like that, really, wouldn't they? So that's obviously an indication that you're a good person. There you go.
Oh, well, thank you, Jim. I try my best to be. It's just like it's just things like that like I just hate thinking about it because I mean, I like living in I grew up in the inner city, so there's life and death scenarios that used to come up when I was young, and all that stuff like that. And when you're young and you don't have the ability to stop certain bad things from happening, it's just like, it's a feeling of helplessness. It's a feeling of helplessness because you can't do anything about it because you're a kid and, you're young and weak and can't do anything. So like ever since like I've seen certain things coming up when I was a kid and I'm like, man, I cannot allow something like this to happen to, one of my own or, some stuff like that. So that's always been, a fear that I've always had lingering in my soul.
Yeah. I was just going to say, whereabouts was it that you grew up? And whereabouts are you in the same sort of place now? Because I'm trying to identify your accent to sort of where in America you are, if you know what I mean. So,
sure thing. Yeah. So I'm from Washington D.C.
Okay.
In the good old U.S. of A. So we so obviously everybody knows what Washington D.C. is. So, so like obviously we're a city, we're the capital. And it's a lot of, we're like a big pool of different people. There's black folks, white folks, Asian folks. There's a lot of different folks here, but, we used to be known as what's called the Chocolate City. So it used to be a predominantly, even now still, even though after like a lot of folks have come around, it's still predominantly, African-American folks that live here. So technically, and I mean technically, we're Southern in a way. I mean, but we're like on the border of the South. Like the rest of the South, like the Carolinas and Virginias, they don't consider us Southern, but we technically are. So it's like that. So we got that hybrid city Southern slang, if that's what it would be considered. Like we sound like, some of us sound like we're from New York, but we don't have the New York accent. Like we talk like New Yorkers, but not have the accent of a New Yorker. And that's just how it is. That's just kind of like the quote unquote accent we have. Like we have our own dialect kind of, but most of the time we don't use it around other people because they don't know what we're talking about. So, it's like that.
Yeah, because definitely. I think that's the same for this sort of country as well. So
no, it is definitely because you will get so many different styles of an accent for an area where everyone's got a slightly different thing, and then say shortcuts to words that people use, slang, things like that. Wherever you go to even different areas of, say, of Manchester, people wouldn't have a clue what you were talking about. And you see it around, so I know exactly what you mean about different changes in the way people speak.
Exactly. Like in DC, we have, we have a lot of different words that other areas don't use. Like, even though, like you go and meet black folks that are in, like, New York, they'll have their own slang. You go to folks in DC, they have their own slang. Then you go to the Southerners, God knows what they're talking about. And and so it's like, and like in the same thing, like all different colors of folks, black, white, Latino, Asian, like based on wherever you're from, especially on the East Coast, like where I'm from, it's a completely different ordeal. It's a completely different style of talking. And like sometimes we're like, wait, what are you talking about? Like what? Like what? Mm-hmm. It's like one time, I have a lot of family that's from the South, and so they'll come up, and then I was like, hey, I'm about to hit up the corner store real quick. Yo, what's good with you? So what that means is, hey, I'm about to go to this restaurant that's on the corner. What do you want from there? That's what that means. Yeah. They look at me and they're like, what's good with me? Well, I went to Yale. I'm like, look, no. like, what do you want from the store? What do you want from the store? You know what I mean? But it's like that. It's like those type of that aspect of dialect, because of the slangs affect how everybody communicates. So it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny when you have somebody that's not from around here, because everyone in the States has a different accent. So it's kind of funny. Yeah. It's pretty cool. It's nice. It's nice.
Yeah. It just gives a bit of diversity, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. That's for sure.
Yeah. So, James, are we doing the what are you scared of part, or are we moving on to the next question?
It's entirely up to you. Would you like me to tell you what I'm scared of? Don't like spiders.
Yeah. Oh, is that
Don't
why?
like 'em.
Is that why when you
That's
had
why I gave the example.
is that why when you had a money spider in your hair, you were a bit like, "Ooh, I didn't like that."
You say a money spider?
Oh, it's just a tiny
little spider.
Yeah.
We call them money spiders. Generally they're like really tiny little spiders, but the nickname for them is money spiders because the idea is that, some old stories that if you kill them, not if you kill them, but if you see them, you could get money. Yeah. Every time I've seen them, I've not got money. I've just got creeped out.
They played you, James. They played you.
Yeah. I was lied to.
Big time.
It's because they know that you are scared of them. Mine would be snakes. I don't like snakes. Although I'm really fascinated by them as well. So like the fact that they can like shed their skin and stuff like that. But the idea of, I think I'm fine with them until they open their mouths. And then it's like, it's a no-go area. I'm like, yeah, you're all right. That's, you can go over that.
Like, it's nice to see you. Now, bye. Yeah, my grandmother, she had a fear of snakes as well. She was petrified. Like, if you showed her a picture of a snake, you're fitting to catch a whooping. That's the way it used to be. But yeah, I got you. I feel you.
Yeah, it was like, even if I saw one on the telly, I mean, it's not as bad as it used to be, but it used to be like the case that if I even saw one on the telly, I'd have to kind of like check under the sofa and stuff like that, even though I knew that there wasn't one there. It's just like a real bad mental thing that,
especially when you see it on the telly.
Yes, because it's going to jump out of the telly, isn't it?
Yes, of course.
I know, it's irrational. So, Andre, is it Andre or Andre?
So it is Andre.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you. I am not used to hearing my name fully, and so it's kind of the only person that really calls me Andre is my father. Everyone else calls me Dre. So this is interesting hearing my name over and over again.
Well, in that case,
I'm like, oh right, that's me, right.
Well, in that case, from this point forward, I'm only going to call you Dre. Okay,
that's Dre. Cool. It is. Yeah,
that's cool. That's cool because I keep. My ears keep perking up. I'm like, oh wait, yo, that's me. Right. Act normal. Yes.
Am I in trouble? It's like if my full name is said, so like Gemma, because for the most part I'm called Gem, kind of thing. But yeah, if it's actually Gemma, then I do tend to feel like I'm in trouble. But that's because my mum always used to shout my name.
I'll do it.
So anyway, Dre, there we go. How, obviously, we've all kind of had a bit of a crazy 19 months, and I just wondered how yours have been really, and has it kind of affected any of your projects that you're doing at the moment, or has it kind of opened up? I don't really want to answer the question for you, but it's like, has it opened any doors that you didn't expect it to open, sort of thing?
And Jem, that's a very good question. One thing it has done, my production slowed down initially as the entire world shut down. So initially, yes. My production, like my printing, a lot of that stuff slowed down. But a golden opportunity opened up for me to have more time to be creative. So I was able to, finish, one of my initial stories. I actually had the creative juices to actually, power through and get them all done. All the edits done and stuff like that. But of course, prints weren't happening. All the cons shut down. So that was, a real strong kick to the teeth. And I had about 5 or 6 events lined up, that I was going to be going to different, comic shops. And I was going to be promoting at the time, my second issue of my series, but all of those had to be scrapped.
Oh.
So, obviously that was a huge bummer, and that was also a financial bummer at the same time. So, because I had prints put together, I had a lot of stuff, a lot of money invested and these moves I was going to make because I was fitting to pull a pretty hefty profit. But of course, all that fell flat. So that was a really, really big bummer, but it gave me an opportunity to reflect on how I wanted to go forward with my creations and my books and other things like that. And like seeing, I started to pay more attention to digital platforming, because that was the only thing I could work on, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And I was starting to see the benefits of like, hey, what if I start advertising via digital and getting it into the hands of people digitally? Now, granted, the comic book community is all about physical copies. That's always the way it's been since the beginning of time. Love having the paper in our hands. That's always what it's like. But with when things change, times change, you got to adapt or die.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things where I had to buckle down, and me and some of my partners and some of my other colleagues that are in the comic industry were like, all right, we got to figure this out. We got to figure out how to get our stuff out to our fans and the people that love our work. And like we have to, show that we're not, getting defeated by COVID. And so it started really focusing hard on digital platforming and stuff like that. And then myself, I was like, hey, you know what? I want to start creating more platforms for the comic book community and my own creative outlet before I go crazy.
Yeah. So
then I started doing a YouTube channel, and I started having interviews with all my other fellow creators and colleagues. The YouTube channel is called Brutal Plan Comics, which is the name of my comic production studio. So, name recognition.
Cool.
Yay.
Yeah.
So I started doing that and are now reaching a different audience that I might not have reached before. So, despite the challenges that COVID had thrown at us, to say the least, the comic book community, namely the independent comic community, has really found an advantage in finding a silver lining in a really, really bad situation. We're able to evolve from it, and now we're growing and we're, bigger and better than ever before. So it's, so unfortunately we had to have such a major tragedy, unfortunately, for us to have an opportunity at growth.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely can understand that. But because for myself, like I don't tend to, I do read comics, but not masses really, because I've got the mindset that I'm quite a collector. So I kind of tend to try and avoid that area because I know what I'm like, and I know that if I have one issue of such and such, I'll be like, I have to have everything. So so I know it's an expensive world. So I'm more of the movie side of like comic book side of things, really. So
that's okay.
But it's actually interesting to sort of hear in a way how COVID did affect, the comic book industry and things like that, because you kind of, I don't know, as a maybe slightly naive person, I suppose, in my case, and that's not a diss to myself. I know what I'm like, but you kind of think, well, there's no reason why you can't draw. There's no reason you can't type. But actually, I didn't think of the fact that, you've got the printing side of things as well, haven't you? And, distribution and stuff like that. So,
of course. I mean, but no shade on you, Jim. It's all good.
Nah, it's all good.
It's just that I people that aren't in the industry wouldn't understand all the things that goes into it. You know what I mean? Just like I wouldn't know everything that goes into, in the kitchen, like in a professional restaurant. All I see is, hey, get to cooking. You know what I'm saying? But of course, there's all types of other things that go into, like the right percentages of seasoning and the shipping and all other stuff, and getting the right meats and the right vegetables. Like all that other intricate things. So it's all good. It's just it was a real blow initially, but the indie scene is a really what's the word I'm looking for? Resilient band of miscreants. We're like we know how to bounce back, and we have, and we've getting stronger and stronger every day. So it's really good.
Yeah.
And it is interesting, though, also what you were saying about the impact that it's had for, say, looking at conventions for people for getting the wares out, because you are even seeing that now, that whereas you were thinking there was an improvement to the way things were going with the conventions, they were opening up, you're still seeing problems for them where people are cancelling or, they're not able to book people, and, my heart goes out to them because it's not going to be an easy thing to deal with.
Yeah, it's been a real challenge. And unfortunately, not unfortunately, but actually fortunately, Baltimore Comic-Con, which is one of the biggest Comic-Cons on the East Coast, actually went, it actually happened this year, which was really good to see. Unfortunately, I didn't know till, as a lot of my fellow creators didn't know, not to the last minute did it get green lit. And then they had limited table space. And so it's like, oh, well, now we know, but now we can't get a booth. So it's like, I'm like, oh, man, I mean, rock and hard place, and then, of course, there was limitations, how many people were going in there. Then there was like, oh, you got to bring last time you got your nose swabbed, and all. It was a lot of extra chaos that was involved. And a lot of my friends that actually able to attend was like, man, it was really chaotic. I'm like, that's not encouraging. I thought we were turning the corner, but this is going to be a gradual thing. Like, this is a new world we living in now.
Yeah.
So it's just going to be some growing pains and just trying to adapt accordingly.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll get there, but it's all baby steps at this moment in time because nobody really still knows what's going on, do they? So yeah.
Very true.
Yeah, hopefully I'll get there. But I've noticed one thing out of the questions that I maybe should have asked this question first before I asked you how your last 19 months was, is that could you maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and the back, and like your background sort of thing, and sort of your education, like and what kind of led you to the path that you're on, and that's purely my questioning, not your answering. So don't worry.
No problem. So, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, I'm from DC, and I've lived in the DC metropolitan area my entire life. Oh man, I'm not used to talking about myself. So I've lived here forever. I grew up here. As far as education goes, before I got into the comic industry, I worked primarily in information technology as IT, for a number of years. I went to a trade school college. I did, some college courses while I was in high school as well. Then I went on to, work as a government contractor, doing IT. And I hated it. To say the least. I did IT for a number of years. Good God, did I hate it. But anyway, in the midst of all that insanity, I started writing my first novel, which sucked, by the way, big time. It was called Pandemonium. It was supposed to be like a dystopian future in which children when they're born, they're taken from their parents. They're raised in basically a fascist ideology, and they become foot soldiers. And the first thing they have to do to prove their loyalty is to kill their parents.
Oh, wow.
That's what I was writing. The premise sounds really great, right? But let me tell you something. I sucked back then. So it did not come out the way I wanted. So basically there's supposed to be this character named Soledad who was born with a mental, not really a disorder, but a mental, I'm gonna call it disorder. But he's able to recall everything from his birth till when he was a teenager. So he can remember absolutely everything his eyes had laid on. So even though he was born, he saw his mother, he saw his father, he saw everything. He sees, and all that information comes in, and he is the first one to not kill his parents. And so that starts, and he sparks a rebellion against the fascist regime. And that was the story. It really sounds cool. I might have to revisit it and do it over because God knows I sucked back then, and I trashed it. But yeah, anyway, I get emotional about that one because that one pissed me off so much because it was such a good idea.
I'd say revisit. I would say revisit because that sounds bloody brilliant. I think it's a story that would be really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought, and I was thinking the same thing, James. I was like, yo, this thing is, like when I wrote, like I first started writing it when I was in high school. So when I was in high school, I took writing language, creative writing courses when I was in high school and stuff like that. Cause I was like, oh man, this is going to be a really good idea. This is brilliant. I'm great. And I'm like, oh my God. Then as I kept looking back and I was like, oh my God, this is trash. Oh my God, it's garbage. But then again, writers were always our biggest critics at the same time. So I might, in the near future, like once I finish my current series run, I might revisit Pandemonium because now I'm much older and I've evolved so much as a writer that I can actually put that story together, and it might be, as James put, brilliant, and I think I might be able to pull something off there.
Yeah,
Excellent.
absolutely. And the thing is as well is that your first attempt at anything is never going to be good. Do you know what I mean? It's
Agreed.
And I think that's the case for anything that you do. Like if you went back and you listened to the first episode of this podcast, it was horrendous. Like it's just me talking to myself about crap. Like I mean, it's not, the concept hasn't changed much, to be honest, but it's like when I edited it, it's I literally took out every sort of breath that I had, so I sound like a robot. It's horrendous. It's the worst thing, but at the same time it shows how far you've grown, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we can safely say the podcast improved when she got the co-host.
Andy,
it was good. Andy who? Andy who? Sorry, what?
A nice little humble brag. I see there. I like it. I'm all in.
But if you noticed, I smacked it away with another man's name.
Shocking, isn't it? Shocking. The way I'm treated.
I'm going to buy
disrespect.
I'm going to buy you a violin for Christmas.
A tiny violin. You got to get the baby one.
Yeah, that's it.
Nice. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty much where I kind of just started off with writing, and then just pushing forward. I've always had a love for literature. When I was ever since I was a little boy, I had older family members I lived with, and they were big comic collectors. We would go to actually the same comic place I've been going for 30 years. I'm still going to Alliance Comics, which is one of my favorite comic shops of all time. That's where I bought my first comic book from, was Alliance Comic, which was a Warner Brothers crossover of Batman and Pinky and the Brain.
Oh, and, wow.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got to look. Oh, wow. You see, when you said a crossover, I think, is it going to be like the DC Marvels thing? But I got to find that.
It was the first comic I ever bought, and I was like, oh my God, it's the greatest thing of all time. It was a lot of fun. It was really goofy. But I was always inspired by the literature that I was reading. There was also writers and poets in my family who are also obviously have creative bones in their body that also help inspire me. So, all that stuff from my upbringing really start leading me on the current path I'm on now.
Sounds good.
I was curious. I'd heard this a bit, Dre, when I was lucky enough to watch you on Reels and Heels. But what really kind of influenced you when you were getting into the world of comics? What would you say really influenced you the most?
So I've had a lot of major influences. So, one of them, I'm going to just go ahead and shout him out. It was a writer named Sean McKeever. He wrote a comic series called Treble. That's mine. He wrote a comic series called Sentinel, back in 2003, in which it was an offshoot of, like the X-Men. But it basically was following a story about a young boy who grew up very poor, and he lived in a junkyard with his with his father and his brother, and he ends up coming across a destroyed Sentinel. For all your listeners out there, just in case you're not familiar with X-Men, Sentinels were robots that hunted down mutants.
Ah, okay.
And so obviously, fear, is gonna come up in your head.
Yeah.
But he repairs this giant robot, and he programs it to be his friend and his buddy, and they become. It becomes like a dynamic duo type thing. It's like he wants to become popular at school, but at the same time, the government is looking for this robot. So it ends up becoming like a cat and mouse mystery thing, but at the same time, it's a coming of age story. The action is great. The characters are so well developed. Like, it feels real. Like, it feels like if I was there, it would be a real thing, because when you see characters like that, or comics like that, usually it's really outlandish and crazy, but no, all these characters are really grounded and they feel like real people. And I was like, yo, this is it. This is what is really, really touching me right now. And I really, really love, stories like that really, really influence my writing. Now, that's as far as creators are concerned. I was also inspired by a lot of Hall of Famers, oh my God, my brain! Come on, brain! Why does my brain not work today? Frank
Don't
Miller.
worry, this happened. That happens to me a lot. That happens to me a lot.
Like Frank Miller and Tom King. Like Hall of Famers. Of course, I've read all their stuff, so I'm like, hey, I'm also influenced by that. But that was one of that was like the book or series that really got me over the hump creatively, because I wanted to have grounded characters that felt real, even in a surreal world that I was building. And I really, took a lot of inspiration from that. And, there was, inspired by, I love film. I'm a huge film guy.
Okay.
I love movies. Even movies from thousands of years ago at this point, talking Casablanca or Citizen Kane or Ben-Hur, like films like that, like deep character, building, films like that. Like I have a lot of inspiration from stuff like that. And it just helps me, creatively have a direction. And I really do appreciate it.
And the idea of having a comic book that has with the Sentinel, they are the quintessential bad guys. I can see why that comic would appeal to you, because it turns it on the head, doesn't it? This idea of actually somebody wants to have this person as this character, this robot as a friend, which is not. If you ever look at just the Sentinels from the point of view of X-Men, they are simply just a tool to destroy and wipe out the X-Men. But to actually have it as someone wanting the robot to be more is, I can see why that definitely grabbed your attention.
Yes, it definitely did. And the main protagonist, I always resonate with underdogs. I love underdogs, like someone that when you see just life is just hitting them across the face every single time. You want to see them get a win in. And the moment they get a win in, it's so satisfying. It's so satisfying to see them get a win that you can't help but cheer. I grew up being a huge wrestling fan. I grew up loving pro wrestling. And seeing the underdog get the win and you cheer and all that stuff, that's the stuff I've always been into. I've always loved seeing someone that's not supposed to be where they're supposed to be, but somehow, some way, things just finally line up the right way for them. I love that type of stuff. And, ironically, which is actually kind of strange, my main protagonist of my ongoing series, TREBLE, is not that guy. He's not that guy. He's not the underdog. I made him to be like a popular type of guy, but his rogues gallery are all those types of people. And that's why I think I resonated so well. Even when I was writing this main protagonist, I was like, hey, I don't want him to be the underdog. I want all of his villains to be. So that the audience, I love having an audience connect with an antagonist. I love having them connect with an antagonist that oh man, he's not really a bad guy. He's just in a bad situation. And I think all the experience that I've had just kind of led to me writing in that way.
I mean, that you've already answered one of my questions. I love that when someone. I like that. I like when somebody almost preempt. You preempt, because I was going to ask you about the current work you're doing, but I agree with you also that a lot of the time when I watch a film or a TV show or whatever, I actually find myself siding more with the villain. I find the villain the more interesting character, because generally, the villain in anything never sees themselves as the villain, do they? They think that what they're doing is right, or it's whatever their motivation is. They never see themselves as the bad guy. But I always find them to be far more interesting and to have more dimension to them a lot of the time than, think about, say, the Joker.
Yeah.
We don't know mass about the Joker, but that's the thing that probably makes him more interesting, because it's just zany. Well, zany is maybe the wrong word, but it's this complete craziness that can go anywhere.
And once again, I gotta agree with you on that, James, because what I love about antagonists is that they are the characters that are having fun. The protagonist is more of the straight edge. You feel me, Jim? Yeah. The protagonist is more of the straight edge. Hey, you're doing the right thing, and people are supposed to like you. They're the face. Yeah. I want the heels, because they're the ones that give the protagonist a better character arc. If the villain is milquetoast, your book is going to be real, or story, whatever, movie, TV show, is going to be really, really boring. But if you got an antagonist that's just out there having fun, wreaking chaos, or is maniacal and meticulous and is trying to rule the galaxy with an iron fist, that is interesting, because now that forces the protagonist to change up the things that they're doing in order to find a way to win. You don't get that with a lousy antagonist. So I'm a big villains guy. I love villains. I love bad guys. A lot of people clown me, but I'm like, hey, I love it when a bad guy wins.
I'm totally there, and I suspect that's also what makes Batman that bit more interesting as a character over, say, Superman, because easily Batman could be a villain. He's dark. He's got the dark side. He's incredibly violent, and he's got this really messed up, scarred psyche. Whereas if you look at, say, Superman, what is he? He's white bread, wonderful, happy.
Milk toast.
Great. Yeah, milk. I was just thinking it's the milk toast guy. It's the it's the look at me. The hands on the hips thing. Whereas Batman, if you were spending enough time just probably sat in a room with Batman without him doing stuff, he'd make you uncomfortable.
And I really like that. I mean, it's like anti-heroes, like Jim's favorite Deadpool. Like anti-heroes, I enjoy them in bursts. Bursts, like a Punisher or maybe Cable from the X-Men. Like those type of characters, I think are good in bursts. Like, hey, they're here for a minute, then they can get up out of here. But to follow a whole arc on an anti-hero, that takes me out, because I don't believe they should be used that way. I think they should be used just like, hey, check out this cool thing that this guy that walks the line of craziness or heroism is doing. And then all right, he's done, get him out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's that's why I love just full on villains, because they're here to stick around and they're here to actually push character story arcs forward.
Yeah, it's kind of
Sorry, go on, Jen.
No, it's fine. I was going to say it's kind of still sticking with the MCU kind of thing, but the fact of Loki. Everybody, quite a lot of people love Loki because he's the baddie. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So.
Yeah, because he is a villain, and when you look at the MCU, and I'm glad you brought that up, Jim, because when you look at the MCU. The majority of the villains in the MCU suck eggs. They suck. Overwhelming majority of them are trash.
And Loki's this is the end of this episode.
Oh no, Jim.
No,
Jim,
it's fine. I'm joking.
Let me help you. See, this is the thing. Loki was a breath of fresh air. That is why everybody gravitated to him so much, because he was a villain. Like, he was dastardly and gross and had a plan, and he was evil. So that's what made him great. All the other villains up to that point pretty much sucked. What was that? Ironmonger from the first Iron Man? Garbage. Yeah. What was that? Whiplash? Garbage. Yellow Jacket? Garbage. Like all these villains that they just keep throwing at us are garbage. But Loki was tremendous. Yeah. And Thanos was tremendous. Yeah. Like, these are villains that you, not only do you want to, in Thanos' case, you want to see succeed, but there are someone that are actually pushing the story forward and actually making the protagonist do things that are actually cool, or do things that do actually push the story forward. The rest of the villains were absolute trash. But that's why Loki was put on a pedestal so high in the air, because he was just so great. And Tom Hiddleston, his portrayal was absolutely brilliant. And so, and like a lot of people was like, oh, heroes are great. What good is a hero if there's no real villain? And that is what drives me. I love villains that matter.
Yes. Yeah.
There was an interesting element though when you talk about, we're going back to sort of talk about the difference between the hero and the villain. There was a run of comic books fairly recently with Spider-Man, where they kind of showed you the real, what I would consider the reality of, with all the power and the ability Spider-Man had, where he embraces his darker side. And I think if memory serves me, he's got the symbiote suit, but it's like he's gone sort of full evil and he's killing people. And I just read it, I thought, wow, this is good stuff. I think it's a fairly recent one.
Yeah, and like that's what everybody loves, the black suit. Like everybody loves the black suit because of the element of surprise that may be revealed, because we already know what that black suit represents. We know that it's about being unhinged and unbridled, untapped rage and power. And then we have Spider-Man, who we know is traditionally a hero, a regular everyday put a poster on your child's wall hero. And then you're going to have him do things that are completely unheroic. And you have no choice but to be like, oh my God, this is so interesting, because this isn't what Spider-Man does traditionally. Yeah. So it really, it gets the attention of the reader every single time.
Yeah. And I think for me, what I also liked in that is that I looked and thought, this is probably realistic as to what you do. If something, because I'm going off my memory, but I think he basically decides he's going to kill somebody, that it's all gone too far. And I'm thinking, but this is the reality of what would happen if you had that much power. Because the thing that I always find odd with Spider-Man is all the power he's got, he's a bit wussy. He's not. Yeah. He's always got the Superman say moral code thing, and to see it put on its head of what I think in reality would happen. Because I always question, if Superman was real, I honestly don't think, with all the built-in power, he would be this great, wonderful stand-up person. I think it would be like we saw in the Injustice setup, where he basically says, "I'm drawing the line here. It will be what I want it to be."
Exactly. Or a bit like that TV series. I've forgotten what it was called.
Homelander.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, he would be a bit like Homelander. Yeah.
I found myself siding with him.
Yeah. I remember.
That's a good series. Like they strayed from the comic a bit, which obviously they had to, because certain things they just can't put on screen. Lord Jesus. Yeah. But I really like that series as well.
And I was wondering, Dre, with regard to the current work you do and the people you're working with, how do you go about attracting new people to that? And has it been a challenge because Gemma asked the question about the impact COVID has had. Has there been more of a challenge to bring in people during the pandemic? So
as in bringing people to view the product, or to be a part of the projects?
Both.
Okay. All right, cool. I'll take the attracting people to the project. Well, to be a part of it. Let me start off with that one. Okay. Luckily for me, I am pretty much a one-man show except for one aspect, and that is the art. My art, I might as well just make stick figures with smiley faces. That would be the best I can do. Luckily for me, I do everything in-house: writing, direction, production, editing. I do everything in-house.
Well, you had to leave something for somebody else then in that case, didn't you?
Yeah, just one little thing, Jim. I got to spread the wealth a little bit.
Yeah.
So, but my artist is Federico Avila Corsini. He is one of the best indie artists in the game. Luckily for me, I feel very proud to be able to get him exposure in the States. From the work that we've been doing over the last couple of years. So I'm really happy that he's finding even more work and stuff like that from them seeing the projects that me and him have been working on over the last few years. So I'm really, really happy to see that he's getting more work. So that fills my heart with joy. So luckily for me, in regards to attracting people to work on projects has never been a problem. A lot of people, artists and stuff have been reaching out to me like, hey, hey, are you doing more stuff? Like, are you writing more stuff? Because like in the writing community, I'm not famous by any stretch, but but I'm well known. Like, and like those that have seen my work or have read my books or seen my shows on YouTube, they're like, oh, Andre has good work and he knows how to write. He knows how to do all these things. He's a guy I would like to work with in the future, which I have as a badge of honor. Yeah. It's a badge of honor to have, to be looked at in that way to my peers. So in that regard, haven't had much of a problem as far as attracting people to projects. If I ever started up a new project, that wouldn't be but 2 minutes, and that there would be folks lining up. So that's really, really good. Now, as far as attracting people to my work, as far as customers are concerned, that has always been a challenge. Like there are regulars that have known my work for quite some time and have always been able to support, but there is a lot of competition. I'll call it like it is. There's a lot of competition out there for those that are indie creators. Like we view ourselves as the farmers market. We view ourselves as the farmers market. Like we're all here to help each other. We're all building each other up. If you got oranges, I got apples. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But at the same time, if somebody has $5 to spend, I would rather you spend it with me than the guy next to me. That's it. That's the reality. So that it's, the competition can be fierce when it comes to, independent creators. It's not like we're like, the big two or any other established studio. Like we're not Marvel, DC, IDW or Dark Horse. We're not any of these people. Like we're us and the companies that we've created. So we don't have big marketing campaigns and be able to put billboards up or hire a bunch of cosplayers to, do our stuff. So we got to do things that are very creative, which is always, cool. But at the same time, it is a challenge. It definitely is a challenge when trying to attract the buyers, because they're being flushed with all types of information, all types of like, oh, well, this studio is working on this and check out this one, and then like sometimes like, oh my God, where do I start? That's always a challenge there, for sure, James.
Do things like you get like free comic book day and stuff like that, sort of giving your product away or part of it away, like if it's just like first couple of, I don't know, but like if you like if you give it away as a sample, that's the word I was looking for. Does that sort of help boost an audience?
Yes, it does. A lot of us over the years have used usually free comic book day usually works well for the shops themselves. But as far as the idea of it, the principle behind it of like, hey, I'll give you a digital copy of my first issue for free. You know what I'm saying? Like that, like your hook line. So definitely, that helps. And actually, I'm in the midst of actually trying to get that set up on my digital platform as we speak.
Cool.
Actually, because there's been a few that I've given digital copies to, like other like people that supported my work and things and stuff like that. Hey, you like this about my work? Here's a free digital copy of my first issue. Tell me what you think and whatever. But the same thing like if you go to I don't know how your food courts work over there in the UK, but like in ours. In our food courts over here in our malls and stuff like that, there's always somebody out giving out free samples of like General Tso chicken or something like that. And and so you go, it'd be like on a little stick or something, and then they hand it to you, and then you eat like, oh snap, this General Tso chicken is pretty good. Now I'm gonna get in line and order some more, you know?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like so yeah, Jim. That I believe is a very, very good business model in general for what we do, especially in the independence community. I think it's huge that we definitely get out there and give tastes to prospective people that want to that are looking to buy our product. So because like sometimes it's hard. It's hard out here. It's hard in these streets. So it's always a challenge. But that's definitely one way that I believe is actually very effective.
Good. Well, you keep going.
It's very interesting to hear how the impact it has on some, for producing things for the people who are independent, because unfortunately, probably most people only ever think of the really big stuff and they don't think of the hard work that has to be put in by people such as yourself who are doing this independently.
Yeah. It's a grind. And that's why it's important for you to love what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Like I love writing stories. I love creating comic books. I don't do this for the cash. The cash is great. Make no mistake. Please send me your, what do you have? Quid, pounds, whatever it is I got going on. Yeah. So like, I'm all down with that. But if that doesn't happen, I'm still proud and I feel happy about the work that I am producing. Like there's a great deal of pride that needs to be put into the creative process, especially when you're independent, because the cash might not be flowing like milk and honey. It just might not do that. You might put forth all the effort in the known world and come up short. It's the reality. It's the reality of the game. Like we don't have major sponsors and Coke and Pepsi. Well, not Pepsi. I don't want that. But we don't have those big backers that be like, oh, even if you fail, you're still gonna get a check from these people, that people. It's not how it works. So, but you have to have a love for the game. You have to have a love for this in order to keep going, because I've known a lot of creators, a lot of talented people, talented creators that have fell by the wayside because they become discouraged by like, oh man, I put so much work into this and that and whatever, but then it just comes up short and now it didn't work out and now I quit. And I've seen it. I've seen some of the most talented people that, in my personal opinion, some of the most talented writers in comics, period, just be like, no, I just can't do it anymore. Cause it is a grind. And it is a grind never ends. But you gotta do it for the love of the game. That's the bottom line. Gotta do it for the love.
Now, I've heard other people saying the same thing that I've spoken to who are in the creative field, sort of filmmakers or writers, who said the same thing, that you see too many people who have put the time and effort in, who have become very jaded and bitter from it, and they've just stopped doing it, but they were producing these things that were excellent, and it's just not gone as they hoped, or things haven't been as well received or whatever, and they've just stopped. And as you said, it's got to be something you love, and you've just got to keep slugging away, I guess.
Yep. Yeah, that's the bottom line. Gotta keep on pushing.
Yeah, like I think we said at the very beginning, it's a very similar industry as what we're well, not industry because we don't get any money for it, but what we're doing is very similar in comparison.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Absolutely.
Too many. I
was holding out. I was holding out for that sweet Pepsi sponsorship, but you two have taken it and beaten it. And
I'm sorry, James. No Pepsi for you. I'm sorry, brother. I'm sorry. You're not gonna see that cash. Make no mistake about it.
Good. Because we don't want it, do we? I was also just thinking that, with regards to, like you sort of said that you've worked with people before, but is there anybody that's like a hero of yours or anything like that you would like to work with? Like it could be like a comic, or work on a comic that, that has been in the past or in the present or anything like that. So
that's a good question. I think, me personally, I don't think I would want to work with another writer. I don't think I'd want to do that.
Yeah.
I think I would want to work with someone that's on a different creative plane and then create a comic based off of that type of experience. Like, for instance, I think I would like to work with like Steven Spielberg.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Someone that's dripping with creative juices that are so out of this world. I think I want to work with him to create a comic book. Because he has the creative direction that very few directors have ever had, period, to say the least. And like, I think I can learn so much from how he can critique and how he can direct, so he can guide my writing hand to be even better than it is right now.
Yeah.
To craft an even more beautiful vision of whatever it is we will work on. And I think that would be the bee's knees. Like a lot of folks that, like in my circle, they mention a lot of other, like Clayman they would want to work with, or, like Frank Miller or, and the list goes on and on and on. Tom King, all the Hall of Famers. Like, oh yeah, I would love to work with them and all that stuff. I'm like, nah, because I want to see my vision look better. I wouldn't want conflicting visions to try to become one. I wouldn't want that because we see it all the time. When there's too many cooks in the kitchen, you get a hot mess. And that is not okay with me. Like, hey, it's my vision, but I have a professional that's far ahead of me that they're able to critique my vision in a way that makes it flawless. That is something that I would want to do, like something like that.
Well, Stephen, if you're listening, we highly recommend. But now I can, maybe he could. Was it Pandemonium? What was it? Your book that you first wrote?
Oh, Pandemonium.
Pandemonium. Yeah, sorry. For some reason, I can't say the word. But maybe you could work with him on that, and then get that all worked into place.
Call me, Stephen. Call me.
Yeah. He's an avid listener. He always listens.
Makes perfect sense. But I think, to be honest, Ray, that is one of the best answers I've heard to that question, because you looked at it perfectly, saying, I do not want someone to mess around with my creation, but I want somebody who can support me in making it better. And I think that was just a brilliant way of looking at it.
Yeah, and I think that's the way it should be. That's just not saying that my way is the way, but I see, like when I look at film and I look at movies and I look at theater even, like when there's one writer, things are smooth because you can see a consistent vision of what is going on. Whether the vision is good or not is subjective, but you can see a consistency of what story is trying to be told. When there's a bunch of different cooks, the story will be like, okay, we're going one way. Oh, zigzag. Now we're going this way. Oh, now we're going this way. Now, me as an audience, I'm like, what the heck is going on? Like, I thought we were going left and now we're going right and now we're underwater. You better explain something to me. What's happening here? And then it takes me out of the experience. And now I'm like, well, I guess I saw it. You know what I mean? And I'm like, well, it was a thing. And that's not the experience I want to have when I'm either reading something or going to a film or watching something. I want to have an experience in which I see the writer's vision.
Yeah.
Whether I like it or not is, up to debate, but I want to see someone's complete vision.
But you're spot on what you said about that thing of changing the having too many people involved, because you can see it on two when big films came out where there'd been a sudden swerve in the director, they maybe changed the director, and it creates this muddled, confusing mess. And the two great examples I can think of are the Han Solo film, and what happened with Justice League, because I'll just say, stick your fingers in your ears for a minute, Gemma, because she's not a fan of the Justice League films, but I am.
I don't mind watching them. It's just how much we need to get this out in the open right now. It's because James sometimes does like movie reviews within the podcast, and I was trying to encourage him to move away from DC for a little bit to kind of get some other films going. Like there's so many other genres of films out there, and then come back to DC another time. But James seems to think that I'm battling him on actually doing DC, so I wanted it out there on the podcast so that everybody can hear.
I can't help that John and I just gravitate towards DC stuff. But what I was just going to say is that the whole thing of having a vision messed with was the great example with the Justice League film, because when it first came out in its first release, I thought what was done to it, I just remember sitting there thinking, oh my God, this is terrible. Whereas when I got to finally see Snyder's vision, I was very, very impressed and very happy. Exactly. And you can just sort of see where things get messed up too much without somebody being able to pilot things properly.
Exactly. And that was a perfect example, James, because that, man, oh God, I hate the first Justice League movie so much. I almost threw up in the theater. That junk was so bad.
I just could not fathom. I remember watching it. I'm just like, what have I just seen?
Yeah, that junk was hard to watch. Oh my God, it was like watching a seal get beat with a baseball bat. It's like, bruh, yo, it's dead, man. Stop hitting it, bruh. Just stop, man.
Hey, Dre, I'd argue watching the seal be beaten might be marginally more, entertaining and enjoyable, but,
No, James, no. You're a terrible person. So what kind of films do you like actually then, Dre? What kind of genres and stuff?
Okay, so genres, I love action adventure. Which is, easy. But I also like thrillers. Now, I like thriller films. I'm not a fan of horror films that much, but I love thriller films, like ones that have that intensity without the nonsense cartooniness of a slasher or some type of monster entity, Thrillers like, just make something simple. A Psycho, like movies like Psycho.
Yep.
That's a thriller. Movies like Secret Window, like those movies like that. I really, really enjoy those films.
I like Secret Window.
You like that movie, Jim?
Yeah.
I like that film too.
Yeah, like thrillers like that. But action adventure is my bread and butter. I am not a fan of period pieces, but one of my favorite period piece movies, I honestly have to be as honest, is one of my favorite movies of all time, is 2002's The Count of Monte Cristo. I love that film. My God, do I love it. I gush about that film so much, because one, it's a revenge story that's classy. I like classy revenge. Because usually when you have a revenge, usually somebody killed your family or whatever. Now you're going to shoot up everybody and kill thousands till you get to the final person. And then you kill my family, now I'm going to kill you. Like the traditional revenge. But this was a classy revenge. And it's about, as it's said in the film, which is one of my favorite lines in the history of cinema. Jacopo, who is the Count's right-hand man, he asked, okay, you got all this treasure. What are you going to do with it? He said, I'm going to go and take my revenge. He said, Jacopo says, okay, cool. Who are we going to kill? Let's go do it. And we can we're going to spend this treasure. And Edmond Dantes, he looks at Jacopo and he says, death is too good for them. They must suffer as I have suffered. I'm like, oh Lord, here we go. And then he systematically destroys their lives. And it's so good. it tastes so sweet. And then, but at the end of it all, he does see that what he's doing in of itself is vanity. So he still learns a lesson despite the fact that he's doing because all the terrible things that happened to him throughout that film. Oh my God. But he still feels that what he is accomplishing is vanity. And even at the very end, he tries to turn things around. It's like, you know what? I've done enough. It's time to stop this. But then his hand is forced to proceed with the final aspect of his revenge. And it is so good. It's so well written, so well acted. It is a tremendous film. I cannot, oh my God, I'm sweating. I cannot praise that film enough. I love it so very much. So as far as period pieces, actually that's one of my favorite films of all time. It's on my Mount Rushmore. It's on my Mount Rushmore films. So it's really good. But then of course it's action adventure. Like my favorite action adventure movie of all time is The Dark Knight, which is, an easy layup. Everything about that movie is great. Dark Knight is one of my favorite movies of all time. Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker. Like the ideology behind what's happening. The idea that no matter how good you are, how bad you are, it's all a crapshoot. It's all a gamble. It's all a flip of the coin. Nothing you do actually matters because all it just have to be is that it's just your day. It's just your day for something bad to happen. And then everything you built doesn't even matter anymore. So I personally related to it. So that was a dark time in my life, but whatever. That's neither here nor there, but but I love, like I mentioned before, I love film, but it also makes me very critical. It makes me extremely critical of film. So it's a love-hate relationship with it. So yeah, I can gush for like 3 days straight about all the movies that I love. So, but yeah, with those two, and like my favorite Western technically is Logan. One of the greatest films, once again, on my Mount Rushmore. Great movie. Oh man, those movies are good.
Yeah, definitely. I'd put The Crow up there, the original one.
Very good. Yeah. Ooh, Jim. Oh, that's a good one.
I love that film so much. I haven't seen the remake. Oh, well, not the remakes, but the sequels, the prequels, whatever they're called. But
don't waste your time. Don't do it yourself. Don't hurt yourself.
They keep trying to make to remake it, don't they? I think they got reasonably close with Jason Momoa. I've seen some sort of stuff from, I think with him in makeup or whatever. But it's I don't think it's going to work. I think they'd be best. There are certain films that you should never remake.
I agree.
I think Crow is definitely within that box of films you should never touch.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's also kind of maybe a little bit disrespectful in a way to it was Brandon Lee.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, because I mean, he died on the film. You have a little bit of respect that he obviously enjoyed the film that much. What I mean? It was an accident. Yeah. Obviously a recent accident's happened as well, but we won't touch upon that because we try to stay a little bit more comical than that. But it's got to have been. It's heartbreaking when somebody dies on a movie set. Definitely. Or let's face it, anywhere. But, so I think it's in some ways it's kind of disrespectful to him to remake it. So leave it alone.
I agree with you, Jim. Leave it alone.
Yeah.
Because, man, that's a good movie. And but this is where we are in Hollywood. Be thankful you all are across the pond. All right, because it's the film industry over here is getting dark. So like they're just trying to remake. Nothing is new. Everything is rehashed, remade, reprinted, recooked. It's all just rinse and repeat. Vomit, eat, vomit. It's no. It's falling apart and it's getting real grim and namely the American audience finally are waking up to it. And they're like, nah, this is garbage. We're just going to go back and watch the old ones. And it's getting to that point. So, so leave The Crow alone. It's a fine film. Leave it be. Because next thing you know, they're going to remake Gone with the Wind. Why not? I mean, let's just remake everything. Forget it. Casablanca. Let's just do that over. Why not? Let's just why stop there? Why stop there?
It's nowhere in the same sort of thing as Casablanca and Gone with the Wind. But if they remake The Breakfast Club, I give in. I'm defeated at that point. And if they if they ever try, now I know there's something in contracts and people's wills, believe it or not, that they cannot remake Back to the Future. Because I think that's the one not to touch. But Bob Gale, next. I think, is... well, I don't know, because Bob Gale and, Bob Zemeckis have the rights to whether it can be done, and they've said sort of no. That there's something legally they put in place so it can't be done. But I fear, Dre, that someone somewhere they really want it will find a way.
Well, they've done a musical version, haven't they, of Back to the Future, which I'm kind of quite interested to go in and see, to be honest. So it's currently in London at the moment. We're neither James or I are anywhere near London, so it's not even between the two of us, is it really? No. But it's probably about 3 hours away from me, because I'm a lot further south. But I when I saw that actually it was on as a musical, I thought, I wouldn't actually mind going to seeing that, to be honest.
It's supposed to be very good. It's a point of pain for me that I could have seen it when it originally did its run in Manchester where it was first launched, but there were various problems. So it's a bit of an old arrow in the heart for me, the fact that I've not actually been able to see it. But around the time,
should we meet up in London?
Well, we could, because around the time it was going to be coming out, I'd actually seen Bob Gale in London. You were with me, Jim, but I don't think we were at a comic convention, but we'd not. You weren't there with me when I spoke to him, but it's around the time, it was just before it came out, a few months, I think, or maybe a bit more, and he was sort of gushing how great it was, and lo and behold, it's got very good reviews. So
so that can be the end of it. That can be, the musical form of it is fine, and that's it.
Don't worry. When they try and remake it, or, it'd have to be fairly soon, but if they try and remake it with somebody like, Justin Bieber...
Oh, God, don't say it out loud. They might hear you. They might hear you, James. Don't say it out loud.
Oh, God forbid, Ed Sheeran.
Oh, God, now we're going from bad to worse. Oh, good gravy. Have the gods no mercy. Oh, no. Oh, no.
The chaos.
Oh, good grief.
Yeah, that's definitely...
Dre, how are you... Oh, sorry. The good thing about this is that if anybody speaks over each other, it's all good because this is separate audio, so it's all good. But I was going to say, Dre, how are you doing with regards to time? Are you?
Oh no, I got time, baby. You just tell me what the movie is.
No, that's cool. No, that's cool. It's just I was just noticing like we're nearly been talking for an hour and a half, nearly 2 hours, which is amazing, and I've really enjoyed it. So but I didn't want you thinking, I really kind of need to go to the shop.
This is the beauty thing, Jim. I don't like going out, so it's all good. So if I need to order something, I order it online. I have technology.
All right, fantastic. Well, in that case, then we've got 20 more questions.
That's fair.
Can I steal one of yours, James?
You certainly can.
Thank you. Well, I'm gonna. So I was going to say, what is your fan base like, and what interaction do you have with them?
So
I know you.
Oh, go ahead, please. I'm sorry. Go ahead, John.
No. You're okay. I was going to say, obviously, when you've got the Comic-Con side of things, but obviously, sort of outside of that as well.
Okay, cool. So luckily for me, I've been a lucky one. I have a hybrid fan base. And what that means is that I have fans from the comic side of things that I do, and also my extracurricular YouTube or other activities things side that I do. Mm-hmm. And so they usually interlink with each other. And the majority of my fan base, the majority of them are very, very kind and very, very, and they've been very, very good to me. There's always riffraffs here and there, obviously, that's just the way there's just always gotta be somebody that's toxic. But the majority of my fans have been really good. They've been really supportive. They come out to, when I did events, they would come out in droves. There was one event I did in, see, relatively distant. Like you heard of Baltimore, Maryland. Like it was near. It was near there. Yep. It was near that area. And of course, I live in DC, so that's not really right next door. But I had a really, really, really good turnout for all my fans that know me online or whatever the case may be. They all came and told me how much they loved my books and how much they love the things that I'm doing. How they're giving it to their children and stuff like that. It was one guy, he came and he's like, hey, I bought your original comic book. Can you please sign it for me? I said, my friend, it would be my honor to sign it for you. And so I signed it, and he was like, and he just had his daughter. He just had his daughter. He had a older son than his daughter. He's like, I read your books to my son at night for bedtime stories. And I'm like, yo, that's dope. I'm like, that is really cool. And he's like, he wants me to read it to him every day. I'm like, yo, I was like, that touched my soul. It really touched my soul, because usually the stuff I write is for everybody. You know what I mean? It's for everybody. It's for hardcore comic people. It's for younger viewers. It's for people that love traditional storytelling. I wrote a series that would appeal to those type of groups and demographic, and to see that a particular reader loved it so much that he shared it with his son, and now his son wants to have my books read to him for bedtime story. It's freaking amazing. It's freaking amazing. And then I just started shipping out issue 5 of the series that I had some prints and that I finally was able to deliver out to the newsletter. And the response has been tremendous. Everybody that's responding to me, and it seems to be, I'm attracting, which was very strange to me, a very younger demographic, which I did not expect. I was expecting people of the, late 20s to 40s, group that's used to that type of traditional action, adventure, storytelling, whatever. But I'm attracting a lot of young people. And I'm like, yo, I'm feeling really good about this. That I'm touching the hearts of kids. And my nephew now, he wants to be a writer now, and he's 8 years old. And so he wants to be a writer and everything, because him and his father, I send them copies and stuff like that. And now he wants to do it, and he's a fan of my work. And so it's so good to see that my work is loved and appreciated, because that's always the point. The point is to have your work be loved, and for people to like what you do. And it's really awe-inspiring to see that somebody gets the point of what you're writing about, or the fun that you're trying to have, or maybe a message that you're trying to push. I really, really love the fans that I have, and I love the fact that my fan base is growing. My YouTube people are now going over and checking out my book, and they're like, oh, hey, because I just started YouTube up again, in the summer, and, because I just wanted to do something, keep my thumbs busy to not go crazy. And it's starting to grow into something different. And, and now those folks are now like, hey, I want to read your book. And then some of them that have are like, yo, I really like your book. When's the next one coming out? And, it's a really, really, really fun and good experience. I've had a very good experience with my fan base.
That's very good to hear. That's very good to hear. Yeah. It's really nice to hear that. Well, it's brilliant to hear, isn't it? Because that it's touching people, it's having a positive impact.
Yeah, and that's the thing that really, honestly, that drives me more than anything else. Is I there's an expression of man of the people for the people. I always viewed myself as one of those folks. I never viewed myself as a creative guru or some of those pious people that look down on people that aren't as creative. That there's a lot of that over here in the States. And I've never had that. I've never had that type of arrogant bone. You know what I'm saying? I never had that type of thing. Even though am I creative? Yes. Do I think I do good work? Absolutely. But I never felt that should be lauded over somebody else, or felt like I shouldn't feel like someone couldn't approach me on the street and say, hey, Dre, what's happening? Can I take a picture with you? I never felt like that I was above that. I never felt that I was above anything like that. I like being part of the people. I love them. Yep. I love them just being like, hey, Dre's just a normal guy. I love that. I love the fact that I'm viewed as just a normal guy you can just reach out to. And a lot of people do. A lot of people reach out to me every single day, whether it's creative or fans. They'll send me IMs on Facebook or whatever. Like, hey, I read your book, or hey, I saw your YouTube channel. I think what you do is really great. I just wanted to thank you for your work, whatever. And then I respond. And then they're like, wait a minute, you actually respond? I was like, yes. Yes. Do you not experience that? Like, no. I'm like, oh, sorry to hear that. You know, because there are a lot of folks, especially, unfortunately, in the writing community, there is a lot of pride and a lot of arrogance. There is a lot of it. And I've met people that are of my creative circle, and they, think they're the bee's knees. They think the second coming of Christ. I'm like, yo, tune it down, bruh. Like, look, we're all in this together, and I love my fans. I love interacting with the fans. And like, even people that like are trying to get into the industry or trying to write or draw for the first time, whatever, they reach out to me because they feel comfortable enough to be like, oh, he's not going to shun me or not going to push me to the side or whatever the case may be. I'm like, nah, ask me your questions. If I can answer them, please ask. Or if I don't know the answer, I can direct you to somebody that might be able to have the right answer for you. So it's a really cool experience. So I've really, really enjoyed my fan interaction.
Oh, that is so nice and so refreshing to hear.
It is.
It really is. And
really
it's not just America. There's a lot of ego over in this country as well. And I'm sure that there is in many other countries as well. But I know what you mean with regards to like people, not bothering with their fans and stuff like that. But yeah, it's so refreshing.
I really think that sucks.
Yeah.
Because you're nothing without your fans. I never understood the arrogance of I'm above them. What are you, stupid? Without them, you have nothing. Like, what are you talking about?
I totally get where you're coming from, because no names will be given, but I've certainly seen at conventions the people who they don't want to be there, the guests, that they just do not want to be there or be around the people. And you're thinking, well, why have you actually come to this? It can only be financial, but really, do you need the money that much that you... it's not great, but it is true. Your fan base, whoever they are, whatever you're doing, they are the people who made you, and unfortunately, quite easily they can unmake you.
Exactly, and that's true.
Why would you not want to reach out? I mean, what you are doing is brilliant, Dre. You're reaching out, you're communicating with people, and it will mean a hell of a lot to people. So it is a good thing that you're doing it.
I don't know. It just bothers me so much that the arrogance of creators, that really bothers me, because like me, I'm small fish. I know I'm small fish, without question. I'm small fish, but to somebody else, I'm a much bigger fish, because to them, I'm bigger than them. Mm-hmm. But to me, I don't see it that way. I see it as, hey, you can have what I have. Just, hey, this is how you can get it. This is how you can do it. And like, that's why, like, well, first of all, I didn't do this earlier, and shame on me. Thank you for having me on your podcast. Thank you.
I know, I was waiting.
Thank you for having me. Because I do everybody, just about everybody that reaches out to me that has a podcast, I am more than willing to jump on it, because like, it's not even just about like exposure for myself, whatever the case may be. Like, no, because like, I believe in the media community, the indie media community. I believe in it, whether it's on YouTube or another type of podcast type or a comics podcast. Like, I've done a bunch of them, and I've done a whole bunch of interviews. But then some folks that I've done interviews with, which is just crazy, because sometimes I interview other independent creators on my YouTube channel, and they say the same thing. They say, Dre, we heard you were really nice, but we didn't think you were this nice. I'm like, what? I'm like, what? Why? I'm like, what are you? I'm like, what is happening out there? I'm like, what is going on? Because like it's like my reputation is very good, as it should be. Yeah. But it's just insane that it's like, oh my God, everybody said that you're the nicest guy to do interviews, you're the nicest guy that comes on people's podcasts. He said, but I didn't expect you to be really, really this nice and this kind and this cool. I'm like, you've been interviewing with the wrong people. You've been hoodwinked and bamboozled because I'm not nice or above the rest. No, this is what a normal person should be speaking like. Like, this isn't, I'm not an exception to the rule. Like, this is how it's supposed to be. And I find so more often that I'm apologizing on the behalf of other creators. I'm like, man, I am so sorry that you dealt with this schmuck. I'm like, yo, like, I'm sorry you had this experience, and it's not fair to you. You have to go through that.
The reality is, for people who are listening, you need to take a leaf out of Dre's book. That's the reality of how things should be. Take a leaf out of Dre's book.
Yeah. But I think I've sort of said it earlier as well, but it's refreshing. It's just refreshing to speak to somebody because, well, you know, both me and James, we're pretty laid back kind of people, you know, like we love chatting to people, obviously, hence the platform that we're doing, you know, kind of thing. But, and also we love hearing people's story, which, you know, we should also say thank you to you for coming on the show.
As soon as you said thank you for, you know, to us, I'm thinking, no way, man, thank you to you.
But it's just so, you know, it's just chilled out. It's like refreshing to talk to you in the sense that, you know, I feel as though we've known each other for years rather than just, you know, a couple of hours. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
It's really nice to just chat.
Yeah, and I think that's the way it's supposed to feel. I don't think anybody should feel like, oh, I better say the right things, or someone should feel uptight when it comes to just sitting back and talking and chilling on your platforms. I don't think it should be that way. Now, granted, I have found myself in those type of situations before, and it is crap, and I hated it. I said, let me just stand up straight, and like I thought I was in grade school. I'm like, yo, like, let me just answer these questions so I can get up out of here and make myself a hot pocket or something. I said, because this is getting rough. Where's my rum? I don't know. I don't know. I can sit around and wait for this to get through. But that's the experience that everyone should be doing. Everyone should be cool and chilled. I just never understood why being arrogant and mean, you felt like that is the way it's supposed to be done. Y'all been watching too many Devil Wears Prada, because that is not how real life works. Because that, and it's insane, especially when in the reality, especially when you're independent, you're a small fish. You're a small fish. Chillax, bruh. Chillax. It's just weird.
I was going to say, I do love the fact that you keep referencing a fish on, you know, on a podcast that's got a logo of a fish. Do you know what codswallop means, by the way?
Codswallop. No, I do not know what that means.
I love how Americans say swallop.
I was going to say that. I love the American pronunciation of codswallops.
And I love the fact that you, just attempted to do a slight British accent there. But I can't give you full credit. I'm sorry.
All right, I'll take 50%. I'll take it.
Yeah, partial credit. Partial credit.
Yeah. You got any idea what it could mean?
No clue.
Okay. Well, basically, there is a PG version and then there's an X-rated version.
All right, is it?
Well, it's basically talking. Codswallop means crap and rubbish, kind of that kind of thing. So, like, obviously, the fact that we put talking and codswallop together, so we're talking rubbish, we're talking crap, you know, kind of thing.
Clever girl, I like it.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, it's all her brain.
I mean, I'm not going to be humble right now, but.
It's all her creation. It's not. Remember, I was brought on. She created this wonderful thing prior to anything.
I like wordplay.
When you were talking about the example of being a good person, and that's the way you should be, Gemma will sometimes joke that I don't give her enough praise, but I'm going to be very, very sincere and honest here, which is when you talk about reaching out and having a positive response, the first time I ever spoke to Gemma was completely utterly out of the blue, wanting to talk to her about podcasting. She took the time to talk to me, didn't have a clue who I was, knew nothing about me, was good enough to bring me onto a podcast to talk to me about things, and then she was good enough to ask me to come on and be a co-host. So both you, Dre, and her are prime examples of being good to people and how it is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
That's the point. Like, rising tide raises all ships. I mean, this is not hard to put together. You know what I'm saying? Like, if we all work together, we'll all get to where we're supposed to be. It's not that complicated. But here we are. People with their arrogance and weirdness. It's just strange. I don't know. Maybe it's the human condition. I don't know.
Yeah. So we've talked about the good things you should do, Dre, and we've talked about the good things, the good stuff you've done. If you could swap places with somebody for a day, who would it be and why?
So, swap with anyone. Like my mind in their body, or how is that?
Yeah, well...
Yeah, proper Freaky Friday, maybe.
I like the idea of that.
So a Freaky Friday type bit. Okay.
Yes.
Ooh, that's a good... Ooh, okay, all right. I am...
But if it's a lady, you're not allowed to touch her boobies.
Come on, Jim, you gotta give me something here. You gotta give me a little wiggle room. So my hero growing up as a child, I was a huge... Oh, just a little bit of background. I, for many years, have been a practitioner of martial arts. For many years.
Ah, cool.
Practitioner of martial arts, North American wrestling, Sambo, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and a little bit of striking here and there. So I used to love watching Jean-Claude Van Damme movies. Okay.
Okay.
So I would love to be Jean-Claude Van Damme for a day. Now, for just for reference purpose, in Belgium, he is practically Jesus. So I would like to just be him for a day and just walk through the streets of Belgium and see all the great statues and having all the people come and high five me because I can do splits in the air and roundhouse kicks and all types of, cool. And like I have a bazillion black belts hanging around my mansion. Like I would just love to have the experience of being someone that I admired as a kid. I would love to just to be in his shoes for a day. Like, what's it like to be Jean-Claude? Because once again, he's one of those famous people it's very, very kind and very, very nice, to all the people that he comes in contact with and his love for his fans. Like, and I would love to feel like what it's like to be that kind of status of a person that's a genuinely good person and seeing how people will react. I would love to experience that. Like, I know a lot of people like to trade places with, I don't know, Bill Gates or Jay-Z or something to have infinity $1 billion or whatever the case may be. But I would love to be in the shoes of a famous person that is legitimately kind and good. And not to mention that he is one of my childhood idols. I actually have like all of his movies like lined up on my wall because I am a nerd completely. And I would love to be him for a day just to see what it's like to feel that.
Cool. Have you met him?
Oh my God, I wish. Oh my, it's like, see, I don't get starstruck very easy. But Jean-Claude will be that one. And I'm like, oh my God, I wet myself. It's like he's that guy. Like he is the exception to the rule. Like I've met, like living in DC, I'm around a lot of famous people. All our sports stars are here. DC is not a very big place. Not at all. DC is like the size of your thumbnail. Like literally, it's tiny. So you'll run into like people that play football. American football. Sorry about that. American football.
We knew what you meant.
I knew what you meant.
Yeah, and basketball players and stuff like that. Like that's a normal or congressman, but nobody wants to see them, so who cares? But like famous people like that, you'll bump into them, and like the hockey team, like there's Alex Ovechkin, who's like one of the greatest hockey players of all time, that plays for the Washington Capitals. I bumped into him at a daggone restaurant. Nice guy, but it's not a big deal to me. It's like, oh, look, it's Alex Ovechkin. Hey. And I moved on with my day. But if I saw Jean-Claude Van Damme in the flesh, I might scream like a little girl. I might just go on stage.
Yeah, he does do events. There are things that he does. So the option, I think, is open to you, Dre.
Yeah, but a lot of his stuff is in Europe. You know what I mean? Remember, Europe's right next door to you, but for me, that's 5 trillion miles away.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I get that, but I'm sure there's something he'd do in the US that you can go to. But I do get it about meeting famous people. I've met a few of them, and there are some that I've met some that have meant a lot to me, where you pinch yourself because you're thinking these are people who've been around from my childhood. But the one that still, strangely, was the only one that really had me going, what the heck? I used much stronger language than what the heck. But I turned to my friend, who's met other famous people around me, but I turned to my friend who went, holy, fill in the swear word. I've just met Kevin Smith. And he's still the big one where I was like, I've met people who are much more famous than him, but I was just like, whoa, it's still the one that absolutely floored me.
Yeah. I mean,
it's the same for me.
Oh, who did you meet, Jim?
Well, the same person. So Kevin Smith.
Oh, okay.
Do you know who? Sorry, not to assume, but do you know Kevin Smith?
Yes. I'm aware of Kevin Smith. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and a lot of people are, but then there's still that majority of people that aren't as well. So
you look at you blankly and go, who?
No, not Kevin James.
Oh no, God, not Kevin James. Oh Lord.
Put it on there, go like mall rats. Clerks, dog, no, it's not ringing a bell.
Nothing. King of the nerds. Nothing like that. None of that rings any bells. All right then. Well,
but no, I actually met Kevin Smith at a Comic-Con, and I had a photo taken with him, and I was literally shaking like a leaf because I was really excited, but I was also kind of nervous. I'm quite the same like yourself, Dre, that not Dre, Dre. That basically, I don't really get starstruck or anything like that. Obviously I'm respectful and whatnot, but it's not that big of a deal for me. But yeah, when it came to Kevin Smith, I was shaking like a leaf, like with excitement. My friend Lucy, who was with me in the queue, I pushed her in front of me because I was like, I'm not quite ready. You have to go first.
That's cool, though. That's cool.
And he was just as I imagined him to be as well, which was the icing on the cake, really. So he's another one that's very humble and very a nice guy. So,
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm glad you had that type of experience. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, touch wood. So far, I've not met a bad celebrity. Touch wood. Yeah. I've not met anybody who's not been good with me. So,
well,
I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
You're lucky. Don't be sports stars.
I was just say, Dre, is there a story there?
Boy, look. So my father used to drive limousines here in the city. So his company used to be contracted to work with a lot of the sports teams. So like the Washington Redskins, I don't think the Capitals were back yet. Yeah, the Capitals were back. So the Capitals were back. The Nationals weren't back over here yet. So the Capitals, the Wizards. So all the DC sports team, they were contracted with my dad's company, and he would drive them around. And also he was contracted with those stadiums. So let's say like a musical artist is performing in a stadium or whatever, Dad would be picking these people up and he'd interact with them. So a couple of times when I was young, I would go with him on those chauffeur things. So it was really cool. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna meet all these, like, he was like, hey, I'm gonna go pick up, the defensive line for the Washington, for the Redskins. I was like, oh snap, it's gonna be great. Like, oh my God, I'm gonna meet all these great players. It's gonna be great. I'm gonna wet myself. It's gonna be awesome. And so my dad, he goes and picks them up, all these giant, massive, monster behemoth of men. And then they were cold and they were callous. And I was like, I don't know how to react. Like, I thought you guys were cool. because I see you on TV, you're slapping hands, you're, fist bumping, all that stuff. But in reality, you're really cold and callous. So I was kind of deterred. So I'm like, maybe they just suck. And that was what I said in my head. Maybe they just suck. So then my dad had picked up, another day I went with him. He said, hey, Dad, he's like, hey, son, come with me. We're going to go for another ride. I said, oh, right. Great. Another time to meet somebody famous. There used to be a musical artist by the name of Maya. You probably don't know who she is.
I know, I've heard of Maya, yeah.
Yeah, she was famous in like the 90s. Whatever. So we went, picked her up, and she was the meanest lady I've ever came in contact with. She was mean, rude. I ain't like her music anyway, but I was really upset because one, I didn't like seeing my dad get mistreated. That's first and foremost. Yeah. And secondly, I think that's what sparked in me the idea of being good to your fans. I think that's where that spark came from, because she was so mean and so callous. And then like me, I was raised to see like, oh, maybe the brighter side of things. I was saying maybe she had a bad day. Maybe she had a bad performance or something, whatever. But no, she had a history of mistreating like her help or like chauffeurs or people she interacted with. And guess what? She lost her fan base and now she's nowhere to be seen. As she should be, because she's mean and nasty and callous. And when I experienced these things with these famous people, it really turned me off from wanting to interact with them or wanting to meet them. Like we have the expression, I don't know if y'all have it over there, you never meet your heroes. Yeah. You have that expression?
We do.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. So we have that expression because there was such a reputation of stars and famous people being just so mean and callous, and like the illusion that you have for them of them being really cool and nice and warm and fuzzy, it will all be eroded because so many of them were like that. And I think I vowed that day, that's like, if I ever become famous, I will never be like these people. Like I would never want to be like this. Like, this was uncomfortable and it was weird and it was completely unnecessary. Why can't we all just be cool and chilling? I don't get it. And so that's just where it came from. So I don't know where I was even going with it. I just went on a daggone tangent. But yeah, it's all good, dude. Yeah, it's just like I hate that so much. I hate it so much. Yeah. So yes, that was my bad experience with a famous person, and I was like, no, never again. I won't deal with it. But that was when I was a kid then, but then I was exposed to the in-depth of the comic community, and it was so much better. It's a whole lot much better atmosphere. Like you mean Kevin Smith. I assume that he's a very, very cool guy. I assume he was. Yeah. Because most comic people that are famous are really cool people. And so I can see him being that way, or people that go to Comic-Cons and stuff like that, or people that play superheroes that go to actually the cons and stuff like that. Usually they're very nice. Like I met Manu Bennett, who, he was in, this show called Spartacus, and he was in, Arrow on the CW. He played Deathstroke. Like he was really, really nice guy, really kind. Mm-hmm. And so, like, and I think that's the way it's supposed to be, but the majority of them ain't like that. So, it is what it is.
Well,
but you know why? I was going to say that, when you've got the horrible people out there, that when you do get a truly good person, their light shines out and shines through.
Truly.
It's true.
So there you go.
It's true.
Yeah.
What I also wondered, Ray, is when you were talking about the comics, obviously in the comic community, if you could have a superpower, what would it be?
Oh my, oh my, oh my. Ooh. See, I think first ability I would want, if I could only pick one, I would want to use 100% of my brain.
Ooh.
I think that is what the power I would want, because with 100% of my brain, I can literally just create anything. I could then create a machine to give myself more powers.
Damn, that's a good answer.
You know what I mean? Because I'd have a flawless memory, flawless mathematician, flawless physics, flawless science, and then literally become whatever I want to become.
God, that's a good answer.
Although, did we all see? I can't remember what the film's called, but the Scarlett Johansson film,
Limitless.
where she
Was that it?
Pardon?
Was it Limitless? I feel like there was something about that. There's a movie.
Yeah, there was
Limitless or TV show.
Yeah, I think it was that one actually. I can't remember exactly, but I remember that she was basically, she had to go away, and there was this
Lucy.
That's
it, Jim.
That's
Lucy.
it. Yeah. Well done. Yeah, so yeah, we've all seen Lucy, and and the fact that, you know, she used 100% of her brain and then she became a computer, so I guess be careful.
And for me, I think that would be the bee's knees. But when we really think about like the human condition, we're all trying to become computers anyway. That's what we.
Yeah.
That's all we got. Yeah, that's all we really want to do. We want to live forever. We want to be able to solve every problem ever. Look at every movie ever made from like the year 1940 forward that deals with machines. We want machines to take over our lives so we can be perfect. Yeah. You know what I mean? But imagine if our brains were already there, and then we can just create our own thing. We think about the idea of creating a formula that reverses the aging process. Because your brain is flawless, you'll be able to actually make the perfect DNA strand to make us all young. That's freaking dope.
That is insane. Yeah. That is absolutely insane. Yeah.
I should write that.
The other thing is, I do. Start writing now. But I think the other thing is that say you were working at 100% brain ability, you'd be able to solve all these things, but you also don't know what else you could do.
Exactly.
You could end up with superpowers. You're not even aware of that. They always say, don't like telekinesis and things could come from extra brain power and extra brain usage. So that's a bloody good answer.
Oh, yeah. Telepathy. You might just get that off the jump.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, if this ever happens and you do actually manage to get this superpower, I would like you to come back on and tell us how your experience is, okay?
You have my
share
word,
your
Jen.
knowledge with us.
You'll have the exclusive. You'd have the exclusive.
Okay, thank you.
But the thing is, Jem, Dre may not even need to, actually come on and tell us. With the mental abilities, you might be able to just will it to us.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Just maybe.
Maybe.
I'd be like, James. It's Dre. I did it.
We're like, okay, brilliant, but we can't portray this to the salty Oh yeah, our listeners are called salty tadpoles, by the way.
Salty tadpoles. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a little bit dodgy.
Look, Jim, I am a huge fan of gimmicks, okay? I love gimmicks, and you all got a good one. I like a good gimmick, 100%. I like it. Salty tadpoles. That's awesome. All right. I'm all in. That's freaking sweet.
Well, we are all salty tadpoles. We are all made of salty tadpoles.
We'll get right down to it. When you get right down to it, you ain't wrong.
I won't use the quite vulgar description somebody once said when I said, "Well, I listen to salty tadpoles." Like, so basically, you're saying your listeners are fill in the blank space. We'll leave it at that.
I'm noticing that James isn't swearing. So does that mean, Drake, you don't like swearing? Because I'm pretty certain I've already sworn a couple of times.
No, you all feel free to do whatever. Like me, I'm not a big swearer. That's not really my thing.
Yeah.
But I have no qualms with folks and language they use. I really
to be fair,
don't care.
I've sworn twice. I've said bloody. That is a swear word here. So
oh, that's right. It is a swear over there. That's right.
It's a curse word. So
it is a curse word. Look at you, potty mouth over there. Oh,
yeah. Ooh, PG-13, James.
Shocking. I'm getting us taken off the chart.
Yeah, to describe the podcast, I was pretty sure I said, "Oh, it's crap, it's shit," But there you go.
That's cool.
So, Dre, what are the future kind of plans for your comic book work that you're doing and your YouTube channel? What have you got in place for the future?
Okay, that's a fine question. So for Brutal Plan Comics, my regular comic production company, I've been producing the comic TREBLE, The Rhythm Within. It's going to be an 8-issue run, but I've just released, well, I've already released a couple months back the 5th issue. I'm actually producing issue number 6 now. So I'm very excited about that. It's hit a couple of bumps, but this one's I'm hoping to release this around Christmas, but that might be a long shot. But, so that's what's going on that front. YouTube, what's going to happen is this. So I'll be doing a couple of more, YouTube interviews for my segment, The Indie Corner. I'll probably have a couple more, and then I'm going to end that season in, at the end of November. So I think November 24th, I'm going to end the season of Indie Corner to give myself a little break. And I might be ending the season for, Brutal Rant, which is my one I release every Monday, in which I just talk about something, like in the comic book industry or a movie or something in which I really liked or really didn't like, and like my whole take on things. I might be wrapping up that season soon. I'm still deciding, because I might keep it up till December, because I want to do a review on Spider-Man.
Yes, I thought you might say that.
Yeah, so I was thinking about ending it this month as well, but there's no way I can pass up the opportunity to sit around and talk about Spider-Man. So I probably will, a couple weeks into December, I'll probably make that the series finale, for the show, the season finale, for this year. And then I'll probably take a few weeks off. But I'm really focusing, well, usually I'm going to be focusing a lot on my comic production next couple months or so, to really give my attention on it, so I can get TREBLE number 6 up and running the way I wanted to. I guess I never really explained what the book is actually about, now that I really think about it. Yeah, I didn't. So basically, the whole story arc is it questions what would happen if a different genre of music gave you superpowers. That's pretty much
nice.
The premise. The premise is this. So basically, a mutagen is poisoned Washington, D.C.'s water source. But the mutagen has actually caused a transformation in people that have O-negative blood types. So those with O-negative blood, which in Washington, D.C. is a very small percentage. So therefore you're able to, minimize how many rogues gallery enemies you have. So you can have just a few, because it's not it's a very rare blood type in the city. Mm-hmm. So my main character, Zamir Green, which, Zamir, means songbird.
Okay.
He has O-negative blood and contracts the disease, and he is a DJ. So his powers began to manifest while he was DJing a party, and he began to absorb all of the sound waves.
Wow.
So when he absorbed all the sound wave, he passes out, but then when he wakes up in the hospital, and him and his best friend, he listens to some music, and his body actually transforms. So every genre of music has a different transformation, and I base it off of the mental, emotional, and stereotypical view of what people view music as. So, for instance, if he listens to rock music, he becomes more aggressive. He gets energy, he gets stamina boost, and increase in strength, and he gets physically massive. Yeah, it's like that. If he listens to classical music, his head increases 5-fold, and he gets telepathy, telekinesis, and he becomes a snob.
Okay.
So it kind of works like that, and it's a really nice little fun story, because it's a little bit of a mystery for him, but not really the audience mystery, of to why the water has been poisoned. And there's also a sub mystery on why everyone else who was poisoned by the water had negative side effects, but Zamir didn't. So it's a twofold mystery. It's like, hey, why did this happen? And how come this guy is okay? And it's constantly questioned by the main antagonist throughout the series of like, yo, why is he not sick or had to be operated on or any of these things after coming in contact with the mutagen. Like, why is that? And then at the end, it is revealed why he was impervious to the negative effects. And I think the twist is actually very, very good. It's one of the finer twists I've made in quite some time. So it's gonna be good. And like, it's episodical. So it's like, it reads like a graphic novel. They're released in singles, but they feel like a graphic novel chapter by chapter. And that's how I like to do my storytelling. So so I'm really looking forward to that. And that was Treble, The Rhythm Within. It's really fun. But I'm also in the midst of writing my next series as well. So it's pretty good.
You know how I said at the beginning that I don't tend to read comic books because I've got an addictive personality? Well, thank you very much, because it seems that I'm having to collect yours now. No, that sounds absolutely incredible.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you so much. Does. I really do appreciate that.
Can we get a bit of a scoop, Dre, on what your next one's going to be about?
Absolutely. I'll break it down for you, but a little spoiler free, but
spoiler free is
spoiler free. So there's an aftermath of the end of the first series. And it's going to be called Treble. That's, obviously the title. It's going to be called Rise of the Children. Now, the chill comes from the virus that he contracts is called the chills. That is the virus I've called it that causes the mutation. So now this one is going to be all about the villains. This one is about the after. So the first series is all about him like figuring out the mystery and all that stuff. Once the twist is revealed at the end of issue 8, it's going to spawn off a whole lot of questions and chaos that I know my readers are going to love. And this one is focusing so much on the twist at the end of the first series. You're going to get a whole new rogues gallery of a bunch of different villains. It's going to be really, really cool. It's going to be a fight for the soul of Washington, D.C. And it's going to be really, really, really cool. And it's going to be one of those series that the audience is going to be on the edge of their seat, because you really looks like Treble is not going to survive this time. It's really going to get you there. And like, I'm inspired. It's more of the Empire Strikes Back of the series. My first series, The Rhythm Within, is pretty much the Star Wars A New Hope version. You follow when you're getting to know this protagonist. This one is Empire Strikes Back. It's the villain's turn, and things are gonna hit the fan, and it's gonna get rough, really, really rough, for our hero. And I think this will be a series in which the fans really get behind him, primarily because you're gonna just see him take L after L after L, and you're gonna want so badly for him to get a win, and he's not gonna get it. It's gonna be really good.
It sounds very good, and as we all sort of said earlier, everybody loves the villain. So to see where you go with that, it's going to be really interesting.
Yes, and in one of my issues, actually two, it was a two-parter. Issues 4 and 5, I actually wrote my favorite character in there. And there was a villain named Sharkbait, and he was a guy that has O-negative blood, but he ended up becoming pretty much, you remember the Creature of the Black Lagoon? You remember that?
Yeah.
So more or less a version of that, but he doesn't want to be a monster. He just wants to be, himself, but he seeks help. But the people that he believed would help him just want to use him as a tool. And so when he escapes, Trouble finds him and there's a part of DC called DuPont Circle where a lot of our major roads meet. And so like he's surrounded and he's like begging for help, but all they see is a monster. And Treble is the only one that sees that, hey, this guy actually doesn't want to hurt anybody. He just wants to be better. But in the midst of him trying to help him, the shark bait, he gets shot. And he don't like that, not one bit, and goes into a berserker rage and just starts tearing the whole city apart. And which then forces Treble's hand to actually have to fight him. It was my favorite character to write. Because I love characters that are forced into roles. I love that sympathy card I get to play. And I get to play that sympathy card. And then we have everybody that got the issue. They were like, yo, why you got to do that to him? I said, look, I'm like, look, this is how it goes, baby. This is how it goes sometimes. I'm like, and so I love that type of storytelling. So I was really excited about that. I'm really excited about the series ongoing. Issue number 6 is going to be a beautiful homage to 90s culture. It's going to be really cool. And it really starts bringing things to a head. So I'm really looking forward to it.
That sounds like an incredible journey that honestly you're on at the moment. And, I think in some ways it's an amazing way to sort of end the episode as well, because I don't think we could possibly go any further, really. As much as we'd love to carry on chatting with you, but it's getting late and I need a wee, No, honestly, it has been amazing. But I was also just going to ask you before we sort of definitely sort of wrap up the episode and whatnot, where on social media, websites and whatnot can people find you, buy your books, and most importantly, buy your books?
So they can reach me on social media at DeBrute00. That's DABRUTE00 on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Reach out to me, say what's up. I'd love to hear from everybody. I love hearing folks. My comic, you can find it at spinwiz.com or the Spinwiz app. All you gotta do is type in Treble, TREBLE, and that will be it. And then I love to have everybody check it out. Feedback, all that stuff. I'd love to hear what people think about the series. Or if you want to follow me on YouTube, I'd love to hear from folks and check out my videos at Brutal Planet Comics on YouTube. I would love to have everybody come holler at me or make fun of me. I'm with it. It's all a really good time.
Well, what I'll do as well is I'll probably contact you a bit closer to the time, because we are probably release this episode in a couple of weeks' time, due to the fact that we've got a couple scheduled already. But what I'll do is I'll get that information and I'll put it in the description notes as well on the episode, so that if people are looking, they can find it quite easily then for you as well.
Awesome, thank you, Jim.
Yeah, you're welcome. James, is there anything else that you wanted to ask or anything
I don't
like that?
think so. I've been quiet because I've just been happily listening to what Dre's got to say. It's I've really enjoyed this, and thank you for coming on. It's been really, really good.
Oh, man, the pleasure was all mine. I really, really enjoyed talking with you folks. You guys are awesome. If you ever need a guest to come on, you just holler at me. I'd love to come back and talk shop.
Yep, well, brilliant.
I think you would be a great guest for Celluloid Codswallop to discuss films. If you would ever be up to do that, I'd love to have you on to my little segment. Absolutely. If you ever want to talk film, I'm all the way down for that. I love me some movies. Excellent. We should discuss Batman sometime. Oh, God. How much time you got?
Anyway, on that note.
But no, I would love, if it's on either something I'm doing or you're doing, if the option is ever there, the opportunity, to discuss Batman, something like that would be absolutely brilliant. Yeah. Absolutely. Just holler at me, my brother. I'd love to jump on with you. Excellent.
Well, in that case then, James, I think that we've been talking enough Codswallop this week. I've been Gemma.
I've been James.
And you have been the amazing, the incredible, the awesome Dre.
Thank you so much.
Let's just say the only Dr. Dre.
Ooh, I like that.
Well, good luck with every project, you know, that you're working on. And I'm sure it's going to be amazing.
Thank you so very much, Jim. And thank you, James, for having me on and putting up with my antics. This has been a real pleasure, and I've had a lot of fun.